Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the full card of fights for UFC 308 Topuria versus Holloway. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card. So in our first fight, we have in the welterweight division, we got Fakhretdinov versus Carlos Leal. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence, Fakhretdinov to beat Carlos Leal. And people are sleeping on Carlos Leal. A lot of people. The odds should not be where they're at. Because first off, Leal was a pretty standout fighter in PFL and for some decent competition. He wasn't just can court. He was fighting some legit competition, beating some legit competition over there. And he has a pretty well-rounded skill set and lethal hands as well, like lethal power. And his grappling is solid as well. So he's definitely a big threat here. And also Fakhretdinov arguably lost last fight, but the fact that this is in Abu Dhabi, and they have favoritism over here, and it's all more than likely going to be a close decision. Whether it be, well, it could go a lot of ways, but I think worst case scenario for Fakhretdinov, I feel like it's probably going to be a close decision. Maybe he should go his way, but it seems like the worst case scenarios is probably going to be a decision. Worst case scenario, and Fakhretdinov's going to get denied. Worst case scenario, so I'm going low confidence Fakhretdinov. I'm not going like no average or nothing. I know how good Leal is and good he can be. And I feel like if anything, this is a fight more so not to like bet the house on because you feel like, oh, this is that. This is more so a fight. I can either avoid it, maybe put a little bit on it, or for the most part, really to see how good or bad is Leal, and it's kind of to see this as a measuring stick fight more than anything. But I think Fakhretdinov has the better wrestling. He can determine where this fight takes place. Take place. And I think his striking solid enough to be able to hold it on with Leal. But I think a good competitive scrap, but I think Fakhretdinov will be able to edge it legitimately and win by decision here. So in this one, I have Fakhretdinov via decision. Now to our next one, we have in the middleweight division, we got Bruno Silva versus Ismail Naurdiev. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Bruno Silva to beat Ismail Naurdiev. And it's just a very questionable fight. It seemed like Silva should win. It seemed like he should win by knockout. Naurdiev left the UFC, and he really hasn't done nothing particularly great. Well, he's done a lot of bad since leaving the UFC. He began knocked out, subbed, and stopped. He got leg kick TKO. He got knocked out. He got clubbed and subbed. That's at least the three of the losses that he has had recently. And then his last fight, he beat up like a 48-year-old man. Like, that looked every bit of 48. Now, I think the guy was actually like 39, but the guy had like gray hair, soggy, flabby body, was undersized. But yeah, he hasn't done nothing impressive. But it seemed like, why are they putting him in the UFC? Why they give him this opportunity? And it seemed like they're probably going to drug him up. He probably come in looking bigger than he looked in those other fights. And he was fighting at welterweight. So how, like, he probably, got 3 months, all of a sudden you probably get juiced up. He probably be walking in 6'3", probably walking in like a bodybuilder. And he going to look good for one fight. Then his next fight, he going to shrink again, have no chin, have no power, have no footwork, and get knocked out by anybody. But they're going to allow him to get juiced up for this fight because in Abu Dhabi or something, he probably going to edge a split decision, even with a glass chin or something. Probably gonna be some crazy. I feel there's some odd energy around this fight. Is all I feel. But nonetheless, I'm going Bruno Silva, second round knockout. Naurdiev's chin hasn't been looking good. He actually hasn't been having bad performances. I feel like in a lot of these fights that he did lose, he was doing good. Like he had hurt. Matter of fact, in most of the scenarios, it was him hurting his opponent. Like, oh, he chopped his guy's leg down. He was trying to chase, and the guy caught him with an overhand, and then knocked him out. Or he caught the guy with a hook, and he was stalking him down. Then the guy caught him with a right hand, and then he stumbled, and the guy just jumped on an arm bar or something. I feel like that was most cases of those fights that he did lose. So, but then again, questionable chin versus a guy who has had power like Bruno Silva, who's a truer middleweight, versus a guy who's been fighting at welterweight and really doesn't have much experience at middleweight, especially not at a decent level. And it's not like Bruno Silva's been losing the scrubs. He's been losing the guys that still are factors, are former champions. So I can't put great confidence in this one, but I'm gonna trust a guy that has actually been putting in work against legit competition versus a guy that's been getting starched by guys that are barely regional level. So I'm going Bruno Silva here to be able to find the chin of Naurdiev and put him out. Maybe to mix some takedowns and ground and pound him. But Naurdiev does have a decent wrestling background, so he might be able to keep us on the feet, which he probably will. So it's probably be a striking battle. Naurdiev probably moving well, but I feel like once Bruno Silva connects on him, I feel like his knees going to turn to butter, and Bruno Silva is going to be able to put him out of there. So in this one, I have Bruno Silva via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the bantamweight division, we got Fareed Basharat versus Victor Hugo. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going average confidence Fareed Basharat to beat Victor Hugo. And I just feel out this thing Fareed Basharat is better everywhere. Victor Hugo, he got like a decent, leg attacks. But I think Basharat's competent enough there. I think Basharat's a much cleaner striker, much more clinical, much more cerebral on the feet. I feel like Hugo's not the most cerebral fighter. I feel like he's a passion fighter. Like he got some decent power. Nothing particularly great about his skill in the grappling or striking. I feel like everything's pretty limited. I feel like Fareed Basharat just fought better competition, beat better competition. And also, Hugo has not looked great. On the contender series, he was getting picked apart by his opponent. Then his opponent was dumb enough to stay, playing the ground game when most of his wins have come by, like, leg locks. And then he got caught in a leg lock. Then on his next fight in the UFC on day betting, a guy came in on short notice, and the guy was primarily a grappler versus a guy who has grappling, Hugo, who has, a well-rounded fighter. He could strike, he could grapple. And Hugo still took the guy to a decision. So Hugo has, by all means, not impressed me. I picked him both times, but he has not impressed me in none of those performances. And Basharat has impressed me constantly with his performances. For better competition, showed a better mindset, showed a better skill set, showed higher fight IQ. And I think Basharat can win this fight everywhere. And I think he will win it everywhere. I don't think he stops Hugo. I think it's on the table. But I think more so, he's probably popping with the jab on the feet, catching the kicks and taking him down to the ground, passing the half guard and just dropping elbows on him. Maybe passing him out at points, maybe taking his back at points. But yeah, this been a step or two ahead on the feet, on the ground, in the fight as a whole, and beating Hugo by decision here. So in this one, I have Fareed Basharat via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the heavyweight division, we got Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Chris Barnett. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going average confidence I'm going average confidence Kennedy Nzechukwu to beat Chris Barnett. Hey, I would like to pick my friend Barnett here, but yeah, I just don't see it. He has a chance here. It's definitely not no high. It's not no lot. Nzechukwu has choked more than once before, so it is definitely happening here. But it is kind of hard to see like a clear path for Barnett. Like everything Barnett winning takes something goofy happening. Like Nzechukwu just, I don't know, just starts dancing and playing around. He gets caught with one of those spinning hook kicks or something, spinning heel kick. Or Barnett just lands a perfectly timed, not set up overhand and knocks Nzechukwu out. It just feel like, or Nzechukwu for whatever reason tries to body lock, suplex him, and just ends up on bottom and just gets pounded to sleep or something. It all takes like goofy scenarios, which Barnett can create or can inspire. He has the will of D. He has that anime protagonist type luck and type plot armor at times, but I don't think Nzechukwu has any reason to grapple with Barnett. He's much longer. Very long. His legs longer than Barnett is tall. He could kick Barnett from distance. It's not like Barnett has no great offensive wrestling or ever shown great offensive or really even great defensive wrestling. If anything, his opponents get tired and he just fat and his belly just fall on people and then they can't get up from underneath him. So yeah, I don't think Nzechukwu will need to take him down. I don't think Nzechukwu will need to clinch him. Nzechukwu had like 85, 86 inch reach. Could be striking from distance. Barnett like 5'8", and has pretty telegraphed strikes. And Nzechukwu comes from 205, gonna be much faster, much more technical. And Barnett just has very limited options to win here. And I think Nzechukwu just going to be able to pick him apart from distance, break him down, then put him away in the second round. So in this one, I have Kennedy Nzechukwu via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, we got Abus Magomedov versus Bruno Ferreira. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going Abus Magomedov to beat Bruno Ferreira, low confidence. Yeah. Abus Magomedov to beat Bruno Ferreira, low confidence. So you can see the screen lit up on his side. I'm picking Abus Magomedov, low confidence to beat Bruno Ferreira. Yeah, it's not like a case like you can say, oh, Bruno has the better cardio or this and that. They both have terrible cardio. But I feel like Abus Magomedov, stylistically wise, frame wise, and all those things, his style, even though they both don't have great cardio or whatnot, Abus doesn't have to commit as much. Bruno Ferreira, he's kind of stuck in this position where he has to commit. He already has this muscly short frame. And then, yeah, muscly and short. So he has to slow to cover distance. Now he's fighting a guy who's like 6'2", 6'3", in a boost. So he's going to have to cover that range to tag a boost. It is not like a boost is actually a bad fighter. A boost is a solid fighter. But and you look at who he lost. He lost to Sean Strickland. And he lost to Kyle Morales. I'm saying Kyle Morales. What's his name? Kyle Barallo. Yeah. Two guys. Sean Strickland, who has already became champion and could become champion again. And he lost to Kyle Bahayo, who in my opinion is probably the next champion or a future champion for sure. In my opinion, he's definitely a future title challenger, but I think in my opinion he'll be champion within the next 2-3 years, if not earlier. But yeah, he lost a solid competition. Bruno Ferreira lost to a fraud from Uzbekistan who starched him in one round. He was about to lose to Stolfus, or he was trending to lose to Stolfus, but they stopped the fight early. He was gassing. Stolfus was taking him down. Stolfus was out striking him. And then he started to hurt Stolfus. Stolfus. and then was able to catch him like a spinning elbow to seal the fight off. But that fight realistically could have went on into the second round. Stolfus would have recovered, and Ferreira would have been in a bad situation. But he was lucky the ref stopped it early. So yeah, I'm not impressed with Ferreira's technique on the feet. Not impressed with his grappling. Magomedov actually has solid wrestling. Again, Magomedov overall is a better fighter than him. It is that the cardio factor. And Ferreira doesn't really have a great cardio. So I'm not saying Ferreira going out there and take him down at will or being able to hold him down. I'm not saying Ferreira being able to push the pace in the second, third, and smush him. I feel like Ferreira's kind of stuck in, oh, I got to crack him, close that distance and crack him, which is not off the table, but I favor Magomedov being able to stab him to the body with teeps, be long, and pick him apart from distance. Potentially getting a stoppage here, but I'm going to say it's going to be like an ugly decision. I think Magomedov going to get off to a good early start. Ferreira's going to have his moments. Probably be able to still around with some hard, landing the heavier shots or landing the heavier shot. Third round, maybe a takedown if they're both tired. But I think Abu's going to win the rounds clear or have the clear round in a close fight or the clear rounds. And I see him beating Ferreira via decision here. So in this one, I have Abu Magomedov via decision. Now my throat drying out. But anyway, we keep rolling. Now to the next one we have in the lightweight division. We got Mitabek Orolbai versus Matus Rebecki. And how do I feel about this one right here is 11 minutes. Yeah, how do I feel about this one here is I'm going Mitabek Orolbai, low confidence to beat Matus Rebecki. And to me, this is not no high confidence fight. I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, this is my highest confident fight of the whole year. Oh my gosh. It's not. Mitabek Orolbai is overrated. Matus Rebecki is overrated. And why the screen gonna be all loud? Nobody trying to update right now. Hopefully I got that. I think I turned the sound down to the stuff right, so maybe it don't translate to the video. But that thing was mad loud for no reason. But yeah, I don't think y'all heard that. But Mitabek Orolbai. But yeah, I feel like they mirror each other. They mirror each other a lot. Not the most technical striker, not the most technical grapplers. Pretty heavy hands, pretty strong wrestling, but nothing particularly special. Not very high ceiling. Neither of them are going anywhere. That's just a flat out truth. But they both fought similar opponents in the last fight. Rebecki faded. Like they started strong but faded. Orolbai was able to survive to a decision. Rebecki was stopped. So they really essentially fought the same opponent last time. Rebecki they both got shot, but Rebecki got killed. Orolbai lived and was able to get a decision victory. So they literally had the same exact fight, if anything. So it's not like, oh, he's so much better. He's so much that. But what I have noticed is that, no, Orolbai has better momentum. That's clear to see because he's coming off a win. Rebecki coming off getting stopped, took a lot of damage. Orolbai is like 3-4 inches taller. And he has like nearly a foot of reach advantage over Rebecki. I think Rebecki had like a 66-inch reach, and Orolbai had like a 74-inch reach. So he'll have a sizable height. Why can't I speak English? He'll have a sizable height advantage and a crazy reach advantage, and he'll have a size advantage. I think he's a stronger fighter. I think he can get his stoppage here, but I'll say decision. I think this fight going to turn out being much more competitive than people are expecting. But yeah, the region, like if it goes the distance, Orolbai already has being the fact that this is in Abu Dhabi, already has a step up. He already has height advantage. He has a youth advantage, size advantage. And I think that's all going to support him in getting his hand raised here. But I do think Rebecki gives him a tough effort. But I think Orolbai will be able to outstrike him. And I think more so than anything, I think he'll be able to out-grapple him with his size. Orolbai's striking is very kind of iffy. So it could definitely turn like, I think Rebecki has a more cleaner striking game, if anything, in my opinion. Especially with the leg kicks. That could be a big factor. But I think Orolbai will be able to get takedowns, use his size at times, use his jab because he has that huge reach advantage, and be able to grind out a decision over Rebecki. So in this one, I have Mitabek Orolbai via decision. All right, now to our next one. We have in the welterweight division, we got Jeff Neal versus Rafael dos Anjos. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going high confidence Jeff Neal to beat Rafael dos Anjos. And Rafael's still game. He's still a dangerous fighter, but I just don't really trust his mindset. He's pushing 40. Jeff Neal, we might feel like, oh, he's over here. But Jeff Neal's only like 34. He's had some solid performances. When we look at his last two performances, who did he beat? I mean, who did he lose to? He lost to undefeated Ian Gary and fought him to a very close fight that I think was a split decision, or really could have been a split decision if it wasn't a split decision. Victory for Ian Gary. Ian Gary, I think only outlanded him by like 10 or so strikes, not very many. He took Ian Gary down a couple times in the fight. held him down some good control time. It was a very competitive fight. He also landed some good strikes on Ian Gary as well. So that was a very competitive fight. And I think that was his last out. And prior to that, he was rocking Shavkat Rakhmonov, who everyone is so high on, and gave Shavkat his hardest fight in his career by far. So it's not like Jeff Neal just out here. Jeff Neal is actually giving some competitive fights. And who has really beat Jeff Neal in the UFC? It's been long rangy fighters in general. It's been long and rangy fighters. Because you could throw in Neil Magnitude, long and rangy, and long man grappling. It's not short man grappling, it's long man grappling. And then more than anything, it's been long rangy strikers like Shavkat, like he like 6'2", 6'3", long and rangy. Ian Gary like 6'2", long and rangy. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson like 6'1", 6'2", long and rangy. And all these guys are some of the best strikers in the sport to date. So he has a style that he loses to, and Rafael dos Anjos couldn't be farther from that style. Jeff Neal will be the taller fighter, he'll be the longer fighter, he'll be the bigger fighter, he'll be the younger fighter. He has solid takedown defense to defend the takedown that Dos Anjos goes for in particular. Dos Anjos doesn't really push a high grappling pace. That is, I think Jeff Neal is just a much better striker currently in his career, and he's much closer to his prime than RDA. And I think he's much more motivated than RDA. And RDA is jumping between lightweight and welterweight, so he's not really even a full-out welterweight. He could lose this fight and go right back down to lightweight. It's not like he's going to had to struggle so much. He could literally lose this fight, then come in on 2 weeks' notice and be at lightweight. So he's definitely by no means filled out for the weight class. And I don't know what he's doing, but I guess he's just fighting. He takes whatever opportunities are there, but it's not going to pan out for him. I think Jeff Neal is able to pick him apart, stuff his takedowns, break him down, and stop him in the third round. So in this one, I have Jeff Neal via third round TKO. Let me see how many I got left. I got a good little bit left. Why make that sound? Sound like somebody dying on RuneScape. Now to our next one, we have in the light heavyweight division, we got Ibo Aslan versus Rafael Cerqueria. And how do I feel about this one right here is, I'm going low confidence Ibo Aslan to beat Rafael Cerqueria. And I'm going to make it quick. Ibo Aslan, second round TKO. Rafael Cerqueria, he has a good frame. Seems like he has a decent skill set, but his level of opposition is just terrible. Like, beyond terrible. And this, despite Ibo Aslan being so incomplete and being so vulnerable, at least he's fighting good competition. Or, fighting UFC level competition. Barely, but still, they made the UFC some decent fighters, decent enough fighters to make it here. And actually have wins here and gave some people some tough outs. He's at least fighting a competition. Ibo Aslan, Rafael is fighting his close friends and family fresh off the cookout. Like, they even got the cookout bellies and whatnot and the cookout ball spots. That's who he's fighting. And he doesn't look all that great against them. He looks good in the highlights, but when you watch the fights, he don't look very impressive. Oh, you can say, at least he's defending himself. Oh, he's waiting for the time. But the people he was fighting, he should have just went out there, just straight up, hands down, walked through, jumping, flying knee, knocked them all out. It shouldn't have been no need to slow them down or a need for them to open it to appear, or it should have a need to be there. He's 35 years old, no good competition to show for it, and he pretty much is jumping in the UFC at this opportunity instead of actually taking at least a couple decent competitions before jumping here. He don't have the resume for it. Not impressed with his skills. Hey, he has a decent shot because it is Ibo Aslan, but he himself, I can see if he was a guy that had experience. Oh, this guy's been to a lot of decisions or been to a lot of third round stoppages. He don't really have that experience himself. And I feel like that's kind of the best experience you would need against Aslan. Like, you have good around skill set, you have a decent frame like he does, and you also have experience really going rounds and haven't been able to find that finish later. But he has less experience going the distance or going deep into fights than Aslan does. So he kind of losing his main angle here. I just think he's going to be too accepting of the back foot. Aslan's going to be to pressure him, break him down. And unlike those fat guys from that he's been fighting, those fat uncles he's been fighting, Aslan at least a legit talent. He's going to make those improvements. He's younger. He's like 28. Cerqueria's like 35. Aslan's going to be to push him, break him, and stop him in the second round, mid to late second round. Just forward pressure, heavy shots, breaking Cerqueria down. And Cerqueria's never going to be able to find that opening that he's going to be so desperately looking for. And it's going to, cave to the pressure and power of Aslan. So in this one, I have Ibo Aslan via second round TKO. Now to our next fight we have in the middleweight division. We got Magomedov versus Armen Petrosyan. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Magomedov to beat Armen Petrosyan. And I'm going to say by decision here. Yeah, Petrosyan is definitely a good test for Magomedov. And he does have a very good chance of beating Magomedov. But as I said in multiple predictions for this card, you got to realize where are they fighting and who is Magomedov. Magomedov is a star they're clearly trying to push. They clearly put in Nina on him. Like they start putting Nina on you, pushing Nina on you. Part of picking up Nina and putting her on your lap. They are pushing you. They want you to win. And even prior to that, they saw how controversial he was and that he could only fight in this region, that region. So they still kept him after all that. They kept him after, fighting someone just because they were kissing their girlfriend in public. They kept him despite him having one eye. They kept him despite him trying to fight somebody because they went for a leg lock in a grappling competition. And they kept him despite he can only fight in Abu Dhabi. They clearly trying to push guys. They put Nina on his lap. They want to push this guy. So the push is clearly on the side. He's going in with Petrosyan, who's a solid fighter and who has a very, very good chance to legitimately win this fight. But can he legitimately get a stoppage? Can he legitimately dominate this fight? Those are very big ifs. The stoppage is the biggest if. Who has he stopped at this level? No one. As far as in the UFC, no one. Who has he really dominated in the UFC? Maybe one fighter, maybe barely. I can't really say he really dominated anyone inside the UFC. A lot of close decisions. So a decisionator, a close decisionator at that, going against the guy they're clearly pushing. And Petrosyan doesn't really go for much takedowns. He could mix up. That would be smart by him. But I think Magomedov at this point is going to have least prepare for that a little bit better. And he's going to still push the same output he does. He always pushes high output. And I don't think Petrosyan is such a high output fighter. So I think Magomedov, he might not be as effective. He might not be as accurate. His striking percentage, his land percentage might not be as high. I think he's going to put a higher output. And the crowd, the ref, the judges, Dana White's going to be jumping on everything he says. On everything he throws, whether it lands, it whiffs, hits the guard, defend it, check. They're going to be saying, ooh, wow, ooh, wow. And that's going to be perceived. And I still think he's going to throw more. I'm not going to say he's going to land more. I think the land total is going to be close. But I think Magomedov's probably going to land a little bit more. He's going to throw a lot more, land a little bit more. Petrosyan's going to have the higher accuracy. But Magomedov probably going to do the more damage. Again, he's going to catch the more eyes. He's going to be more perceived. And the judges are already going to be on his side to begin with. So I think Magomedov's going to be the edge of the decision. I think it's going to be one of his most competitive fights thus far. But I think he gets his hand raised nonetheless. So in this one, I have Magomedov via decision. All right. A lot of fights. Could he just end already? But now to our next fight, we have in the featherweight division, we got Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going Lerone Murphy, low confidence to beat Dan Ige by decision here. Yeah, by decision here. Dan Ige has a good puncher's chance, but I just feel like in general, this has not been a spot he thrived in. Like when he's going in with a legit prospect, guy that's legit rising up the ranks and has a legit future, I feel like Dan Ige just accepts his role pretty much every single time. He might get up for an old vet like Barboza, and I feel like he still arguably lost that fight. But it seems like anytime he goes in with like a young guy, what's that one? That country guy was able to easily wrestle him up for like 50. He gave like a good work for like a little bit. Then eventually he just settled into the role. Bryce Mitchell just started taking him down at will. Like he gave him a tough out for a little bit, and then he accepted his role. Cater, he just accepted his role. Like every single time, like he just accepts his role. And what's his name? Diego Lopez. Kind of accepted his role, but then he realized, wait, this guy's fading. Wait, I got a shot. Wait, this guy's not that good. It's like he either gives you an effort early and then just accepts it, or he doesn't give you effort early and he realizes like, oh, I belong here. And it's like either too early or too late or not at all in these matchups. And I feel like Murphy just a much more technical striker. He's a much bigger fighter. I feel like he can control the wrestling battle where this fight takes place. And Dan Ige just once again gonna be looking for that big overhand, that big shot. And Murphy's gonna do a good job of not being there to be hit, working out a jab, stabbing with teeps of the body, switching stances, maybe mixing some level change with some takedown just to keep Dan Ige preoccupied and not knowing what's next. Whereas Ige, he's tough for sure. He can hold his own with anyone. Very good chin, but very limited output. Like I feel like his wrestling has not, offensively, have never really been no big threat in most fights. And then he has pretty decent striking. For the most part, it's just big, loaded up shots. And I think Murphy could perceive that and do his best to not get hit by that. I am concerned of Murphy's chin. But, again, I really don't lean to puncher's chance. I need to see more from Ige, and I have not seen that. And more often than not, I have bet against that and or picked against that. And largely, more often than not, I have been successful doing that against Ige because he just has an established track record. It's not like one fight, two fights, like 4 or 5 fights that he has continued to accept his role, and I think he accepts his role once again. And I think he loses by decision here. So in this one, I have Lerone Murphy via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, we got Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. And how do I feel about this one right here is, let me see. Yeah, how do I feel about this one right here is, I'm going Alexander Rakic, low confidence to beat. I'm going Magomed Ankalaev, low confidence to beat. Yeah, low confidence Magomed Ankalaev to beat Alexander Rakic. I'm gonna say by decision here. I think it's gonna be a competitive fight. Rakic is definitely an interesting threat for. Let me make sure everything good. Let me make sure everything good. I got no tissue on my face, but anyway, yeah, Rakic's a good threat. I feel like I got some on my face, but it's like, do I? It don't matter. It don't matter. But yeah, Rakic's a good threat. He's long, he's big, has very underrated wrestling, offensively and defensively, good leg kicks, good size, good technical skills. And I think he's going to push Magomed Ankalaev. I think it's going to be a good test, but I think it's a test that Ankalaev is going to be able to pass. I think he's riding a lot of momentum. I think he has a lot riding on this fight, and he has a lot of reasons to get up for this fight. And I think he deserves to be in that title picture and fighting for a belt. But yeah, tough fight. I think Rakic's going to cause him to have to dig deep and win this one. And I also think the fact that Ankalaev a lot of times does, kind of wait for the moment, or he kind of try to set up his moment. He's not a guy that's just looking to crash into you and put you out. And that's going to help Rakic a little bit early as well. But Ankalaev does eventually find his timing as always. I think it's going to be to hurt Rakic at points in this fight. And I think it's going to shift the fight drastically. And I feel like at that point, once Rakic is clipped, he's probably going to be able to survive and bounce back and have a decent showing. But I feel like he's going to look flatter after that. And Ankalaev's going to come on more, probably be able to get takedowns at a point. Not no great control time, but probably get enough, like 30 seconds here, maybe a minute here, maybe a total of like 5 minutes of control time in this fight, and like a drop. And then just be able to bring Rakic to his pace. As you hurt somebody, and now they start kind of like, what caught me? And they start worried about what's coming back at them. Their output starts to drop. Like that's going to happen for Rakic in the second round. And largely in the third round. I mean, he'll get hurt in the second round, but I feel like that's going to carry on to the third round. He'll lose the second round, and that's going to carry on to the third round. I can see Ankalaev getting a 30-27 here. But I feel like Rakic probably going to take the first round, and Ankalaev's going to take the second and third. And yeah, probably in the third round, he's probably going to get more takedowns after Rakic's too respecting of what's coming back as he gets hurt or clipped in the second round. His pace is going to drop, and he's going to be biting more on the setups of Ankalaev. Ankalaev's going to be able to start to level change, mixing takedowns, mixing kicks, mixing overhands, and be able to grind out a decision over a very game Alexander Rakic. So in this one, I have Magomed Ankalaev via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in our co-main event, we have Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Khamzat Chimaev to beat Robert Whittaker. I think Robert Whittaker is very game here, and the fact that this is 5 rounds make this is, if you're picking Chimaev, especially if you're betting Chimaev, it makes that a little bit scary, or a lot of bit scary. The fact that Chimaev kind of phased even in 3-round fights. Now he's going 5 rounds with us. Guy who has been 5 rounds, a guy that has been a former champion, and even after being being a champion, he has 5-round fights, multiple 5-round fights, and has looked good at 5-round fights. If anything, he has gotten stronger as the rounds have went on. Versus Chimaev, who has gotten weaker as the rounds went on. Typically, it's definitely a scary situation, but I'm going to Khamzat Chimaev nonetheless to win this one. I think he has a lot riding on this one. I think he's doing all the right things, or at least as far as we can see, he's bringing in the right training partners, bringing in the right coaches, taking the right medication, taking the right diets, having the right diets. He's making the right moves. Robert Whittaker is just doing more of the same. Like, he might have some focused stuff for Chimaev, but mostly training with the same people, doing the same things, expect the same guy. Whereas I'm expecting a better version of Chimaev. I feel like he's going to change. I feel like Whittaker is not really necessarily going to evolve that much at this point. I feel like he is who he is, and that's a very good thing in a way. But also, it could be a bad thing when you need these big matchups like this, and you need to be better than you were before to beat this guy, so that you can, I guess, change your fortunes and be champion. You can't be who you were, who lost the belt. You got to be better than that guy to regain the belt, in a sense, or at least maybe fix the flaws. But yeah, but I'm going to Khamzat Chimaev. It's not like he's just looked straight up bad after 1.5, because if anything, he has done well in some of these later rounds. In the Usman fight, he broke his hand in the first round, still was able to look good in the second round, and still able enough to keep the third round competitive. It's not like he got washed by Usman in the third. In the Burns fight, he needed the third round. He won the third round. So it's not like, oh, the guy wins the first 2 rounds, then he's just done. Like he in the Burns fight, he only had like 2 hard fights. He had the Burns fight, and he had Usman fight. Usman fight, he still was able to go with the 3 rounds strong. Not as strong as he was in the first, but still he was in like flat. He wasn't. It was still a competitive fight through that point later on. In the Burns fight, in all types of bad situations, but still was guy pushing in the third round. Still was guy getting takedown in the third round. And it was Burns, but India kind of went flat a little bit in the third round. So I don't think the cardio is as bad as people are making out to be. And I think Chimaev's grapples on a different level. Whittaker, in my opinion, looked terrible on the ground against Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis put him on the ground, and with like a minute or less, he was busting Whittaker up and about to finish him in the first round on the ground. In the second round, he took him right. I mean, he hurt him, and the rest is history. But yeah, Chimaev, I feel wrestling on a different level than Whittaker has fought. And Chimaev is a much younger wrestler than anyone that Whittaker has fought. You know, most of the grapplers he's kind of talking about, oh, I'm Brunson. Brunson was like pushing 40 at the time. Romero was 40. Jacare was 40, or they were like 38. But he hasn't really fought a guy who's like 30, 31, or younger like Chimaev is in the grappling department. And yeah, I think Chimaev's strike is going to surprise Whittaker. Again, he's been training for it. And then once he's able to gain the respect on feet, he's going to be at a level change and also catch Whittaker, intercept Whittaker. Whittaker, a lot of his style, for better or worse, is jumping in, jumping out, jumping in, jumping out. And if Chimaev can time that jumping in, he can score easy takedowns. And I think that's going to be one thing. He's going to be getting respect on the feet, maybe catch him with the jab. Whittaker's going to try to come in, like he's going to probably fake a jab. Chimaev is. Whittaker's going to come in, try to slow forward and hit him with his traditional combination. And, you know, pretty much give Chimaev his hips. Chimaev's going to put him on the ground, pound him out in the first round a little bit. Second round, similar, rinse and repeat. Probably get him in a body lock, drag him to the mat, drag him to the ground, drag him to the mat, pound him out, get him to turn over, take his back, rear naked choke, second round, sub for Khamzat Chimaev. So, in this one, I got Khamzat Chimaev via second round submission. Now to our main event. We have in the featherweight division, we got Ilia Topuria, reigning featherweight champion, versus former featherweight champion Max Holloway and reigning BMF champion Max Holloway. How do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Ilia Topuria to beat Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway presents a lot of issues for Topuria. His pacing, his size, his length, his chin, his experience, the fact that he's still, you know, in his prime. It's not like, oh, Max Holloway, despite all the fights he has and all he has accomplished, the guy's still in his early 30s. And I think Ilia is like in his late 20s. So there's not no big gap between them. There's a big gap between what they have done and how long they've been here. But the age-wise, not a big difference. And Holloway still is getting better. I'm not saying he's like stagnant or anything, or like he's got it so much better, but he's still getting better. He's not one of those guys like 32 and they are already just over the hill, not getting improving. They just losing and losing like that. This guy's still getting better. He's still putting on great performances. Just recently started getting knockout power, so he's very much a dangerous threat. But I gotta go Ilia Topuria. They are in Abu Dhabi. Is almost, as I said already, like 5, 6, 7 fights on this card. I think this one does go the distance. Holloway's chin is strong and sturdy, and it has held up. And I think it will in this fight. I think he might get clipped, he might get dropped, he might get near knocked out. But I think Holloway will be able to bounce back and get in this fight. I think he will fight a good competitive fight, and he'll definitely push Topuria, especially in the middle rounds. But I don't like the fact that Holloway, you know, got his frame into 55 and looked good at 55. And then it's no in-between fight. There's no tune-up, no nothing, no adjustment fight. No adjustment fight. And he goes for fighting Gaethje. I say, who's Gaethje? Whatever. Gaethje. Yeah, he goes from fighting Justin Gaethje to now jumping into a title fight with one of the best, possibly maybe the best featherweight all time, skill-wise, maybe. Well, I'm not going to say that because Primato was different. But yeah, fighting such a skilled fighter, so you're dropping like 10 pounds after filling up to make, you know, look good at that weight class and adjust that weight class. No in-between, jumping down to fight the best guy at the weight, actually, who has speed, power, heavy hands, quick hands, good head movement, good wrestling, good grappling, like a full well-rounded threat in your first fight back. So you're not even dealing with a weight cut. You're fighting potentially the best guy you ever fought, at least at the time you're fighting him, because he didn't fight prime out him. Whatever. Now I think Topuria could easily be better than the best Volkanovski. Obviously, he has a lot to improve to say that, but I think Topuria has the potential to be better than Volkanovski ever was. And this is a very big test, and to do this with like no in between fight. Yes, he got the balls and he did BMF, but this is a tough test. And also, Max Holloway is the most hit fighter in UFC history. Now he's going with a guy who's very active, very sharp, has very fast hands, very quick hands. And also, you got to deal with that speed adjustment. You got to deal with that technical advantage. And because Gaethje was slow and predictable in comparison, and way less technical. Now you're dealing with technique, you're dealing with speed, you're dealing with different heights and sizes, like a whole lot of different adjustments at the high level that you got to deal with. Whereas Topuria is getting a slower Holloway. He's getting a Holloway that's probably going to be weight drained a little bit, and chin's not going to be as good as it usually is. I think Topuria's speed and technique going to cause Holloway a lot of issues early, and Holloway's going to have to adjust and adapt. Now I think he's going to win the middle round. Then I think in the later round, I think Topuria is going to be able to mix in his grappling to be able to edge the final round, or at least make it close. And I think like a strong start to Topuria, probably a good finish for Holloway, like good middle rounds, and a good scrap down in the final fifth round. But Topuria doing it just enough in that fifth final round to edge the fight. Probably win the first two and edge in the fifth and getting his hand raised, or maybe edge in the fifth, or maybe winning the first three. Either way, tough competitive scrap, and Topuria showing up in the championship round after maybe losing dropping 2 rounds to edge it, and I see him getting his hand raised over Holloway. So in this one, I have Ilia Topuria via decision. And that concludes my fight predictions for the full card of fights for UFC 308, Topuria versus Holloway. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.